There is a moment in every meaningful journey when you realize you are no longer who you once were and not yet who you are becoming. I call that moment a threshold, and I've lived most of my life in these thresholds. By the time I was 19, I had moved more than 50 times across 19 states. My childhood was shaped by instability, narcissistic abuse, and a high control religion. With every move, I had to gather the scattered pieces of myself and carry who I had been in one place into who I needed to become in another. At the time, I called it survival. Today, I understand that I was learning how to integrate. Years later, my husband and I moved our family completely off the grid onto a remote mountain property in Colorado. Living on our land became one of the greatest rites of passage of my life. Nature started to reflect my inner world back to me, and slowly I began building a life that truly felt like it belonged to me. That journey carried me onto the TEDx stage and across continents and into ceremonies with teacher plants and non-ordinary states of consciousness. It also placed me in vulnerable positions no journeyer ever expects to face too. During a plant medicine retreat, my husband and I watched the ceremonial container fall apart. When the facilitators were unable to restore safety, we chose to leave early. It was after that event that I promised myself that if I was going to continue entering psychedelic spaces, I needed the education to protect myself and those that I loved. So I pursued formal training in nature-based psychedelic integration, microdosing and earth medicine mentorship, adult mental health first aid, and nature-connected coaching, trauma-informed work, parts work, and the neuroscience of change. I then traveled to Oaxaca, Mexico, excited to learn from indigenous leaders and traditions. The experience was life-changing. And then that container fractured too, in ways that felt painfully familiar to the first one. The training I hoped I would never need to use suddenly earned its weight in gold. I worked alongside mentors, teachers, and Indigenous leaders as we navigated severe rupture, held council after council, and made a committed effort to repair our group. Through these experiences, I began to understand that the collapse of a psychedelic container is not a rare event. They are far more common than we realize. And journeyers need more than just preparation for the medicine itself. They need to understand how to recognize the red flags and green lights at retreats, how to vet facilitators, what questions to ask, how to recognize a rupture, and what choices remain available when safety begins to disappear. These experiences became one of the deepest reasons why I wrote the One Wild Step integration method. And since extensive training and certification is not accessible to every single journeyer, I created a self-guided workbook that empowers readers with all of that knowledge, plus the art, science, and power of integration. Then, after I finished this manuscript, a friend and colleague of mine suffered an extreme health event while attending a psychedelic retreat and later passed away. Their death strengthened my conviction that journeyers deserve access to this information before they enter these spaces. We are living through a psychedelic renaissance right now. Access is expanding, healing centers are opening, and more people are seeking transformation through psychedelic experiences. Our education, ethics, and preparation need to expand with this access. This book answers that expansion by giving journeyers a trauma-informed, ethically grounded path to prepare safely, protect their agency, navigate rupture, and transform insight into lasting change, which is the medicine and the magic of these spaces. I call this action a wild step, which is the moment when courage grows louder than our conditioning. This is a handbook I needed before my ceremonies, and is the handbook I believe every journeyer deserves before placing their body, mind, and spirit into someone else's care. Because the psychedelic experience can open a life, Integration can transform it, and education, preparation, and personal agency can help protect it forever.